says you already done committed adultery because that thing is going to got so much power over you now, it's going to pull you right into the physical act. Isn't that something? So it started in your imagination before you got to wherever you went. Change, you got to get out of that thing. As soon as it come on, listen, as soon as the eyes want to look, you get them away. You break that thing. Listen to what it says. And if thy right eye offend thee. You see that? I like Jesus, the masterful teacher. Jesus started teaching in what's called Calvary Choma. Calvary Choma is where they were teaching in the culture in that time. Calvary Choma deals with, it was a common way of Jewish teaching. A method they used during Jesus' day. It was called Calvary Choma. Calvary Choma, what it does is emphasizes light and heavy. Light and heavy. Remember Jesus says in Matthew 23 how that you talk about you tired and he said you talk about how that and then you leave undone the weightier matters of the law. Remember? Faith and all that. So he said, listen, light and heavy. It deals with light and heavy, Calvary Choma. So that's what Jesus is talking. That's what he's teaching with here. That's why he said, you remember when he says when you give in the temple, he said don't sound the trumpet like the hypocrites do when they give. You know what Jesus said? Don't sound the trumpet like the hypocrites do when they give. See, sounding the trumpet in their culture, what he was dealing with, they had little brass containers with a round bottom and a little top, and it was made of brass. And they had corn, see. In the temple, some people want to make people say, I'm giving a lot. I want to let them see it. I'm giving a lot. They throw them in there and make them sound off real loud and make a loud jingle. And that's what they call sounding the trumpet. It's a Calvary Choma. It's a Hebraism. It's the way they teach in their culture. You remember when Jesus told the man, follow me? He told the boy, follow me? He said, hold up, let me go first bury my father. Jesus says, follow me and let the dead bury the dead. You remember when he was saying that? Same thing he was talking about. Culture, Jesus wasn't disgracing the boy's father. He was attacking a cultural belief they had. And so Jesus knew that's what it was, because it was called, in Jerusalem, me and my wife saw, when we went over there one time, these little boxes called ossuaries. Little boxes called, when the father dies, the oldest son has to take, the oldest son, he steps up and he takes the father and he buries him, put him away. And then they go into mourning for at least 7 days, right? And then what they do after they put the father away, they mourn for a period. Then they wait on the all his flesh to deteriorate off of the bones. And then, listen, once all of the father's flesh deteriorate off the bones, then what they would do, they would take those bones and put them in this little box called an ossuary. They would take them into Jerusalem, and they would stack them inside this little cave all on top of each other. The reason why they do that is because when all of the Jewish belief system during this time is that when the father, all his flesh deteriorated off his bones, they was believing that would take care or make an atonement for the sins of the family. So Jesus was attacking that belief. That's why when he said, Jesus said, follow me. He says, hold up, man. You the son of the living God, man. You Jesus. I can't follow you. I ain't had my sins taken care of. I got to go first and bury my father and get my sins atoned for. Then I'm worthy to follow you. Jesus says, no, you follow me and let the dead bury the dead. In other words, you follow me. I'll take care of your sins. You don't have to go back and bury your father in the ossuary and let that take care of no sins. That's what they believe. You follow me and I'll take care of your sins. That was a cultural belief he was dealing with there. So Jesus wasn't disgracing him about burying his father. Jesus was attacking that belief system that your father's flesh would take care of your sins. No, Jesus, no, that ain't gonna happen. That's not true. That's what Jesus was after. So here he's using Calvary Choma again, dealing with, and he says right here in verse 29. If thy right, he says about the lust and all that and adultery, he says, if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish and not thy whole body should be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast it from thee, for it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not the whole body should be cast. In other words, he's using kavachoma. He's not saying cut your hand off. He's not saying pluck your eye out. In other words, he's saying cut off what you're looking at. If you can't stop, he says, listen, if your eye offend thee, pluck it out. In other words, cut off, pluck out, or cut off what you're looking at so you won't be lusting after this woman. He said, then he turns around and said, if your right hand offend thee, if you can't keep your hands off of her, cut them off. If you can't keep your eyes and hands off of this woman, cut them off, pluck them out. In other words, cut off the desire to put your hand on her. Cut off the desire to look at her. He's teaching kavachoma. That's what he's talking about. He didn't say physically cut your stuff out. He understood the culture of their time. He was talking to them based on culture. Are y'all getting anything out of this? See, this is what God is trying to help us understand. Now, listen, I'm going to show you this, then I'm going to close for the day. Is that all right? I think I ain't going to overload y'all. I'll pick it back up with part 3. Listen, go with me. I'm going to show you this man right here. Go to Job 31. Go to Job 31. We'll close there. Is that all right? We'll close there. See, these men understood something. See, that's how, we got to understand. We got to get this thing off. We got to get this, listen. Jesus said, if you can't help or look at it, he said, you got to cut that thing off. You got, in other words, pluck that thing out or cut that off. Don't keep looking. Because if you keep looking, you have already committed it because you let it conceive in your imagination, in your mind. And once it is conceived there and you don't break it there, you can bet your bottom dollar the physical act is right around the corner. Isn't that something? Job 31, you there? Look at verse 1. This man understood something that what I'm talking about right now. Job said, I made a covenant with what? My eyes. Job said, I made a covenant with my eyes that what? Why then should I look upon a woman or maid? Job said, I made a covenant or agreement. Amplified says, I made a covenant and agreement with my eyes. How then could I look lustfully upon a girl? Put the Amplified up here, Fred. Amplified, Job 31:1. Look what it says. I dictated the covenant and agreement to my eyes. With what? My eyes, what I'm looking at. How then could I look lustfully upon a girl when I made a covenant with my eyes that I won't do it? I won't keep looking and looking and looking and looking. I made a covenant with my eyes that I won't keep looking and looking and looking and looking till this thing, lust, rise up in me and I commit the wrong thing. He understood what Jesus was talking about. Why? Job said, I better not let this thing stay lustfully up on my screen. I better not keep looking upon this girl. If I keep looking up on her, this thing going to get in my imagination, can conceive, and then next thing I know, I'm going to be committing either, in his case, fornication or adultery. One of the two. Same principle work for fornication or adultery. So what did boy